It gets more eyes on your website. It brings more dream clients directly to you. And it can be a way to also like set you apart from, others in the field who are doing what you do if you do it the correct way. And so it's like the number one thing that's going to help get more eyes on your website.
Hey there, and welcome to the Event Crushed podcast. Each week, we'll be chatting about all things wedding industry, entrepreneurship, and how to crush it in life and business. I'm so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This is your host, Becky. And I'm so excited for today's episode because we're diving into SEO, specifically local SEO with Carrie of Bloem Creations. Have you ever Googled your business and wondered why the heck you're not showing up in search results? Or maybe you are, but you're on page like 10. Or maybe you are ranking, but you're not getting the right inquiries. If so, this episode is for you. Carrie has a way of breaking down SEO in a super approachable and easy to understand way. She's not only an expert in web design, copywriting, and SEO, but she also has firsthand experience working in the wedding industry, which makes her insight especially valuable for wedding pros like you. Before we jump in, I do have some exciting news. Next week, if you can believe it, is my 50th episode. And to celebrate, I want to do something fun for my amazing listeners. So if you leave me a review on Apple Podcasts anytime between now and when next week's episode airs, you'll be entered to win a little something special from me. And it's just a way of my saying thank you for your support. This podcast has been just such a blast for me. And I'm so grateful for my listeners, my audience, everyone who engages on social media and shares the podcast and lets me know that it has helped you in any way. It means the world to me. And so I just wanted to say thank you and do a little something for y'all. So hop on over to Apple Podcasts, pause this really quick, leave a review, and then come right back here because you do not want to miss this conversation with Carrie. All right, let's get into it. Hi, Carrie. Welcome to the show. I am so excited to have you joining me today to talk about SEO. And it's fun because one, you are local to me, whereas a lot of my guests are not local. So I love that. And you and I have got to work together a couple of times. You helped me with my website copy a while back when I was getting ready to launch my new website. And then more recently, you and I sat down and you did like a whole SEO audit for me, which was amazing and so insightful. And so I knew that you would be just a fantastic person to have on the podcast to share about SEO. And I have done a couple of episodes touching on SEO, but I feel like you bring just kind of a fresh approach to it. And also when we were talking, you made things so easy to understand. And so I'm excited to hear everything that you're going to share with us. But before that, can you please introduce yourself to my listeners and just kind of give a background on you and how you work with wedding pros today?
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk about this. It's a topic that, like, for me, has been even like a little bit of a self journey because I started out as somebody who was super intimidated by SEO and kind of wrote it off as like, no, that's not going to be what I do. And now I'm like obsessed with it and love it. And background wise, I don't even know if you know this about me, but I actually have a background as a speech therapist. And I did that for several years. Technically, I still am licensed, but I'm taking a break while my kiddos are little. And so like web design was never something I thought I would do or SEO or anything like that, but it kind of just fell into my lap. I was helping out with websites, one at the speech therapy practice I was at, and then a local florist here who I do freelance floral design for. I was helping her with her website, but they were all on other platforms other than the platform I use now. And so I like struggled through them and felt so defeated. And then fast forward, I was on maternity break, late night scrolling on Instagram, discovered the Show It platform and like became obsessed with it, took courses, have never looked back. And so first started out just doing web design and copy. And then, now I do all three because I just realized how incredibly important SEO is, how for so many it's something that's like intimidating. And my goal is to help people feel like empowered by it instead of intimidated. Um, and in terms of wedding pros, so I have a little bit of that background just from, a long time ago, I worked as a caterer and did tons of weddings. And then I still do freelance floral design. It's like something I love. And I know a lot of the florists here in the Eugene area where we are. And so once I got into this, it was something that I've worked with so many different wedding pros on both copy, their web design on Show It, and SEO, like with you. So anything from, I've worked with calligraphers, wedding planners, venue owners, a wedding expo, Alex, who was your guest. I've worked with her, numerous florists. I'm trying to think who else, photographers, and like it's just an industry that I love and that I understand like from both sides of it. And so I think I like get what it's like to be, there on the ground of a wedding working it. But I also know like, okay, how do we bring that to your website to really set you apart? So yeah, that's kind of my long little spiel there.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I almost forgot that that's where our paths initially crossed was you freelancing with a florist at a wedding that I was doing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just love that you have like you said, like the boots on the ground experience. And so you're not just coming at this from a web design background only, like you have the actual experience as somebody in the wedding industry doing the work. And I think that that's really important. And I did not know about speech therapy. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that's like my first, career, my first love is something that I see myself eventually when like both my boys are in school age, maybe doing like 1 or 2 days a week. But like this, web design, copy, and SEO is like never going to be something I can see myself not doing because I just love it so much. So yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. And I also think it's amazing that you went from, starting with like web design to then evolving into copy to then evolving into SEO because they are all three like so interconnected. And I think people don't always realize that. And they think like, oh, I can just, do this one thing. But you doing all three just provides a way better like service and experience for your people that you're working with because you can really hone in on all of those aspects and not just like leave them kind of DIYing, which like for me, I had a great web designer, but then I have in the past before you had always just like done my own copy and I'm not an expert in copy. So yeah, I just think it's awesome that you are providing all three of those services. And so today we're talking about SEO. And like I said, I have talked about this a bit on the show before. So I do want to dive a little bit deeper than we have gone before. But to do that, we need to start at like a foundation point, just in case anyone has not listened to those previous episodes. I would love if we could just start with like laying the foundation. So in simple terms, what is SEO and why should wedding pros care about it?
Yeah. So, SEO is a process of just setting up your website to make it more accessible and friendly to search engines like Google. So it's making it so that the content you have on there is going to be easy for Google or whatever search engine, but that's most likely what I'm going to reference today because that's the biggest and most widely used and known. It's going to make it easier for Google to match what you do, what you offer with the people who are looking for it. And like the key word that I want people to take away is that it's a process. Like this is an ongoing thing. It is never a one and done. It is not overnight. And I know like people have heard this, but I feel like you can never repeat it enough because especially in this world, we want like instant results. And that is not how SEO works, but it's like long-term free marketing for your website, essentially, So, and why should you care about it? I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons. Like when you do it properly and effectively, and you just kind of make it a part of what you do, it gets more eyes on your website. It brings more dream clients directly to you. And it can be a way to also like set you apart from, others in the field who are doing what you do if you do it the correct way, And so it's like the number one thing that's going to help get more eyes on your website. So.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned it being a process because I am not like new to SEO. I mean, when I started my business 12, almost 13 years ago, like I really did put a lot of energy and attention into SEO. I had a wedding blog before my planning business. And so I had done SEO for my wedding blog and that kind of thing. So I think that was like my foundation. But all that to say, like I did put quite a bit of time and energy into making sure that I was good with SEO. And like I remember watching my ranking improve over time. Like I would check, like every week, okay, where am I? And then finally, when I was on page 1 of Google, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm on page 1. Like this is so cool. And so I remember like actively working on it. But the reason that I reached out to you, to do the SEO audit was because it had been a long time since I had really like done a lot with my SEO. And I just thought, hey, like there's all these new planners coming in, and things are changing. And I just wanted to make sure that like I was still doing whatever I can do to make sure that I am getting found by those couples and getting seen online. So it isn't something that you can just do and then just think, okay, I'm good for the next decade. Like we have to continually work on it throughout the years of our businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So can you just kind of break down for us a bit about how search engines, specifically Google, like how does it work and why does that matter when we are optimizing our websites?
Yes. I love this question because I think a lot of people are like, I think I kind of know how it works. But when you like break it down, I think it really helps click like, okay, that's why I need to do X, Y, and Z. So the very first thing that a search engine does, or like Google specifically, is it's going to crawl your website. And I personally hate that term crawl. I always picture like spiders, but like essentially it is. It's like little robot spiders crawling over everything on your website. So your images, your graphics, all of your words, your links, everything you have on there. First, they're going to crawl it to take all of it in. The second thing that they're going to do is index it, which is essentially just organizing it. So you can picture like a big digital file cabinet or Rolodex or whatever. It's going to organize your content according to what you have on there, right? And then the very last thing is what everybody cares about. Then it's going to rank you. So ranking is influenced by a lot of different factors, both on page and off your page. But the biggest things is it's going to rank you based on your credibility, your quality of content, and the relevance of your content to whatever somebody's search query is. So how relevant is what is on your website to what they're searching for? And so when you think about these things, one is like, it's important to know, okay, what do I need to do in order to make sure that these things happen? Because you're never going to rank if your website has never been crawled or indexed in the first place. And that's a huge thing that nobody even has on their radar. And like in terms of your getting indexed, okay, well, this is where your keywords come into play, right? If you want to be ranking for certain keywords, then you need to make sure that like the page you want to be showing up for that is going to be indexed according to that. And so like it really influences what we need to do on different pages to make sure that we are relevant, that we are providing really quality content, and that we're going to get found by the right people.
Yeah. Thank you for breaking that down for us.
Yeah.
My next question is what are, since you've been working with wedding pros and other creatives on their websites and helping with SEO, like what are some of the mistakes that you have seen wedding pros making, like maybe even me, I don't know. And how can we fix those? What can we do instead of, those mistakes?
Well, one of the very biggest mistakes that I see, just not just wedding pros, but a number of the ones that I work with and just everybody, is like never even realizing that these are the things that need to happen. So like if your website has never been crawled, you can't rank, right? And so you have this beautiful website, you get it out there and no one's finding you. But what people don't realize is like you have to tell Google to crawl you. And this is one of the biggest things that people don't know, or like they just don't even realize how important it is. And how do you do that? It's with Google Search Console, which is a free tool, but a lot of people have never even heard of it. It's not on their radar. It's not the same as your Google business profile, but it is this free tool that you literally go in, you set it up with your domain, and you can tell Google, okay, my website exists. These are the pages. Please crawl and index it. But like if those steps get missed, then your odds of ever really ranking are so limited. One of the other ones is like a lot of people choosing keywords. I've talked with a number of wedding pros, like at the networking event that you host here that I've gone to before, and they're choosing keywords just kind of based on what they think in their gut makes sense or like what logistically would even make sense. So,
Mm.
say someone is a photographer, a wedding photographer, and they live outside of Portland in a smaller suburb. So, in their brain, they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to do Portland wedding photographer because that makes sense, because that's going to be a bigger region for me. That's my keyword. But if you don't research it, then you have no idea, okay, well, how competitive is that? Like, are loads of people looking for that, but it's so competitive that you never really have any chance. And so you would have a better chance using different verbiage. And like, even when I was doing your audit, there were certain keywords that I was researching for you that I thought, like, from my
Mhm.
professional standpoint, like, oh, for sure, this would be a great one. And then I was like, oh, it has a super low search volume. Not very many people are searching for it. And so many wedding pros and everyone in general forget, like, you can't just choose it because in your brain it makes sense. You really
Mm.
do need to do that keyword research, because otherwise you're just kind of like hoping that what you're choosing is the right thing.
Mhm.
um not having enough words on your website and consistently across different pages that you want to rank for. So in the wedding industry especially, I see a lot of pros have like really beautiful pages that are almost like all images because they want to have a gallery from an amazing wedding, which can be fine, but then you need to realize that page is never going to rank, because Google in particular has a hard time analyzing just images, even if you give it alt text to describe what it is. And so you need to have that extra verbiage on it and other things along with that gallery if you ever want that to end up being something that's ranking really high. You need to describe what was, the inspiration for this wedding, what was important to the couple, what are the details. You need to name all of the other vendors and do links to them. And then also have invitations to explore other places on your website to make sure that you have enough words for that to ever even have a chance of ranking, which I believe like the minimum is either 300 or 350 words. It's like the bare minimum you want on a page. And like when all you have is a beautiful gallery, it's beautiful, but it's not going to rank. So that's
Mhm.
another big one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad I was going to ask you. I wrote down like, what is the minimum for the words? So that is really helpful to know. Cause yeah, again, I think a lot of people just don't know
Right.
and it's not really like taught to us. So that's why I think like
Hmm.
these, getting this information out there is going to be so helpful just to clear up some of these misconceptions. One of the biggest ones being what you were talking about, choosing keywords and how people just kind of go with like, maybe, what they've seen other people do or what they just like think is right. But an example of that, like you had mentioned, there were some for me. And one of them that I was thinking, oh, this will be great because I, for years now have been working with primarily couples who live out of state and are having a destination wedding in Oregon. So I was like, oh yeah, Oregon, like Oregon destination wedding planner. But then it turns out like nobody's like very few people are actually searching for that phrase. And so that was something I would not have known had I not done,
Hmm.
had you not helped me with keyword research and then, you giving me alternative ideas and everything. So, yeah, it's so important to do that. And so, how do you recommend that people do that keyword research?
Yeah. My favorite tool personally is one called Uber Suggest. And to me, this is a tool that is the most like user friendly for anybody who's like brand new to it, even for somebody who is very familiar with different tools. It's still my go-to. I find it like the easiest, most well organized. There is a free version out there. It limits how many searches you can do in a day to 3 a day, but for some people that's fine. But I love Uber Suggest because you can type in, your keyword, which is a phrase. Ideally you want 3 to 5 words, and it's going to you can look at all sorts of different information to get ideas in terms of, okay, the different metrics you want to look at. So you want to look at search volume. So how many times in a month is this being searched for? You want to look at the cost per click. And this is telling you just how valuable of a search word Google thinks it is. This is what people are paying to rank for that. And then you also want to look at, it'll give you like a difficulty ranking. And that's from 0 to 100. And so the higher it is, the harder it's going to be to rank for that. And so you want to find like that sweet spot for it. And the other thing that I love is that you can put in domains and then pull inspiration from those. So if there is another wedding planner or photographer out there who you really admire and who you love, you can put in their URL and you can say, okay, well, what words are they getting a lot of traffic for? Are those good words for me to look at? Or are they way too competitive? Or what pages of theirs are getting the most traffic? So it can be a really cool way to look at just inspiration for things. And you can also look at like it'll give you suggestions for questions people are asking around a keyword phrase, which is like, oh, I could use that for a blog post, or I could use that for an FAQ. So Uber suggests, and like, no, I'm not an affiliate. I don't think they have them. They should, because I tell everybody it's an amazing, it's so easy to use. Next month, I have a guide coming out that I'm going to have for sale on my website. And it's like Uber suggests is what I like guide people on how to use, just because it's also one of the more affordable. You pay the fee once and that's it. You have it for the rest of your life. It's not an annual renewal. So,
Yeah. I love Uber Suggest. Although I didn't realize that you could, because I've only used it to like look up keywords, and see if they're good. But I didn't realize you can put in other domains that maybe they are like your target market, or, like the type of weddings that you're wanting to do, and seeing like what kind of keywords they're doing. That's such a great idea.
It's super helpful. And when I'm doing an audit for a client, I'm always looking at competition. Even if it's, competition can have such a negative connotation, but I don't necessarily mean like, oh, we're going to try and steal their clients. It's just like, well, what kind of words are they using? It can just be a really great way to give you ideas and inspiration on what's working for people and what's not, and what might be super competitive and what might be something that almost no one else is doing, but that you could be doing.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And I will be sure to link all the amazing tools that you are suggesting down in the show notes for sure. So everyone will be able to easily find these and give them a try. Google Search Console, that's free, right? Like that's just
It's
a free.
Yep.
Yeah. So like that's a no brainer. And then Uber Suggest, like you said, Carrie, you can do 3 searches a day. It's not a lot, but hey, it's something if you don't want to pay for it right now. So,
right. You can do, I believe even on the free version, you can save different keyword lists too. And so like for me, I do it for different clients, but you could be researching for different pages of your website, because that's one mistake I also didn't mention, is that you don't want all of your pages on your website to be targeting the exact same keyword. You want to be targeting different ones so your pages aren't competing with each other. So when you're doing your research, you could be organizing, okay, these are ideas for the homepage. These are ideas for keywords for my about page or my portfolio page or my services page. And so you can also get, strategic and where you're using them on your website.
That was something that you taught me that I didn't know about, having different keywords for each page. And because I was just thinking, my main thing before was like Eugene Wedding Planner, and just kind of trying to like stuff that into every page, but not realizing, oh, that might actually not be helping me. And so now I've like gone through and kind of made each page has its own separate keyword. Which, it's too early to see how that will come about, but I know that, and I'm just trying to be patient. But yeah, I thought that was so interesting. So I'm glad that you brought that up too.
Yeah.
Do you ever see any like outdated SEO strategies? I mean, I know things have changed so much in the last decade plus. Like, do you see anything that people are still doing that maybe like isn't as relevant anymore?
I think most people realize now that like keyword stuffing is something that you shouldn't do. So for example, I think there used to be a habit of like, you would name an image, you would rename an image before you would put it on your site, which you should do, but just like stuffing as many keywords that are relevant to what you do into it, which is not what you should do. You might have a keyword in there, but you don't want it to just sound like garbage or jumble, because search engines are smart. They know when you're speaking to a human or writing for a human, and they know when you're writing just to try and please the search engines. And so like that's the thing too, as if you are writing your website copy or you're asking ChatGPT to help you write, which is okay. I'm not here to shame anybody. But when it gives you that response, or you're trying to write something and you're trying to integrate those keywords, I always say you need to stop and ask yourself, okay, is this something I would actually say to a client? Are these words I would use? If not, don't use it. Like, it won't sound like you. It won't feel authentic. It won't make a real connection. People are going to get turned off by that, and search engines also know if you're just trying to stuff in as many keywords as you can. And so like, that's something that it's a fine art of finding that balance, but it's always writing for humans first. Because if somebody lands on your website and your copy is kind of confusing and it's not very clear, and so they're just going to bounce and leave it, well, that's going to hurt your SEO too. You want people spending time on your website as long as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. Okay. Well, that's super helpful. I want to get super practical here. So for any wedding pros who are listening and they're not super tech savvy, like not all of us are. Most of us got into this industry to be creative and to plan pretty weddings or take beautiful photos. So maybe we're not like super tech savvy. Can you just give me like 3 things that they could do today to potentially improve their SEO?
So I would say, one of the best ones is going to be, if you don't have a Google business profile, set one up and ask for reviews. Those are like 2 of the easiest things that you can do that help your local SEO, which I think we're going to touch on more. But just like, Google business is so easy to set up. It kind of walks you step by step through it. It's, very straightforward. And it's a great way to just like start building more online credibility and presence. So that's one that you can do. That's like, you don't even have to touch your website for that, right? One in terms of your website is every single page has something that is called a page title. And depending on what platform you're on, accessing it can be different, but it's generally still pretty straightforward. And this SEO page title is what we see when you go to Google and you type in, Eugene wedding photographers, for example, and you get all of the links that show up. Those blue links that you click on that take you to a page are the page title. And what people don't realize is like, this is where you can put keywords, and you can be smart and strategic and stand out by changing your page titles. And so instead of just calling it about, could you find a way to put in some of your keywords there? Or, a lot of people I see will just use their name, like Meet Becky. Okay, well then all you're going to be ranking for is that phrase, or Google is going to think that your keyword phrase is Meet Becky. And so instead, it's like, okay, well, what could you do there? And this takes literally, once you know how to do it, which there's going to be easy steps wherever, you could Google it literally, like how to change my page title on WordPress, and it will show you. And it will then take you like less than a minute to go in and change it and save that. And that's such a valuable way to tell Google, this is what this page is about, and this is one of my keywords. And it still needs to, make sense, but it can be such a valuable place to stick that in there. And it really is, once you do it once, you're like, oh, that wasn't hard. I can do it for all my pages now. So that's another huge one. And I think another one is in terms of like trying to boost having good relevant content on your page and boost that word number. Because sometimes people are like, I don't know what else to write here. It's like, well, you can always do FAQs. I think that's such a valuable way to provide good content that's relevant and that's going to often have keywords naturally in it because you're talking about what you do. And it's also like a win-win because it can help like weed out clients who aren't going to be a good fit for you because they will read through these FAQs, spending more time on your website, which is going to boost your SEO. And then by the time they've gone through those, they're already going to have a better idea of whether or not you are a wedding pro they want to work with or not. And so then you're not getting inquiries with loads of questions. You get more inquiries of people who already are excited about working with you.
Yeah, those are great tips. I especially love the page title one because that was something I like ran home and changed all my page titles after that. Because, it was, like you said, I think it literally was just like about or about us. And then I changed it to about your Oregon wedding planners or something like that.
Right.
And so it's like, it's so easy to change your title. It can be done, like you said, in a matter of a minute. So that's such a quick thing that everyone can do. And the Google business profile, like, yes, everyone absolutely should have one. I actually just took over, or didn't take over, but I'm managing kind of the sales and marketing for a local event band here in Eugene. And one of the things I realized really quickly is, oh my gosh, they don't even have a Google profile yet. So that's one of the first things that I'm doing.
Yes. So many wedding pros, especially, don't necessarily have it. And I'm like, what? how do you not have this? And it's actually, so Google Business Profile is the largest factor that determines your local search ranking.
Mm.
So, and even if you're not just local, right? Even if you do destination or travel weddings, it's not like you're going to turn down a dream client who is local to you. So like your local SEO still matters. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. That's the perfect segue because I want to spend a good chunk of time talking specifically about local SEO. So can you just kind of walk us through like why does local SEO matter? And then kind of share with us some specific strategies that we can be doing to help show up in our local area searches.
So we know that almost 50% of every Google search results that you see is going to have local intent, which basically what this means is that 50% of what Google shows you is going to be pulled from a radius that is related to where that person's IP address is, regardless of if you put in local or near me or the city you're in. They're still pulling in almost 50% of the results just based on where that person is. So 1 out of every 2 almost. I think it's like 46%. And so, like that's huge. Regardless of whether they're looking for something local or not, they're going to be seeing local results. We also know that 88% of searches done for a local business that are on a mobile phone result in either a phone call or a website visit within 24 hours. 88%. Like that's huge.
Wow.
It's huge. And, that's why it's so important to have a Google Business Profile that can pull up, that has your website, that has accurate business contact information, your phone number, your hours of operation, your services, etc., because it's very actionable. I mean, people are taking action and doing something with that information within a day, most of the time. And so, it's really a huge boosting factor to, if you will, like to really focus on SEO locally, as well as, if you want to do it more broadly, but, skipping the local part is only losing you connecting with clients. So it's a huge thing. And like I already mentioned, the Google Business Profile is the largest factor that's going to impact your local search ranking. And so some of the things that you can do is really make sure that you have that be as complete as possible. And so like, even if you are somebody who doesn't necessarily have true like office hours or set hours, you never want to show that you're just open 24 hours on Google Business Profile. They want you to seem like, a brick and mortar. And so you can put in, 9 to 7 or whatever, or 9 to 4, whatever seems the most appropriate, but putting in something similar to what you would actually work is something. And the same as you would with anything else, you can add in new photos. That's something that I recommend doing on a quarterly basis, if not more. Asking for those reviews is huge because that's one of the best ways that you can start building that credibility. And as a wedding pro, when you're asking somebody to invest thousands of dollars and trust you on their big day, that credibility is huge and people want to read more reviews. Oh, actually, locally for wedding pros, The Knot and Wedding Wire are also 2 really great platforms that impact your local SEO as well. And, doing that research, like I mentioned previously, of your keywords, because depending on where you are, your local SEO might be neighborhood based. It might be, city based. It might be regional, state. And it's just going to vary because people who live, wedding pros who live in huge cities like New York City, okay, well, the competition there is going to be insane. And so they're going to be much more like neighborhood based, right? Versus here in Eugene, it might be much more just like city based or even statewide based. And so that's where that comes in because local can mean different depending on where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you also mention, I feel like when we did the audit, you had said something about like using the full about section on the Google profile because I think it could be up. I can't remember how many words, but you had told me like,
thank you for
just
reminding
try
me
to,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So you get 750 characters to describe what your website what you do, not just your website, but just to describe what you do. And to really try and set yourself apart and to naturally use some of your keyword phrases there, you want to use all of those characters if you can. And it's not words, it's characters. And so like you can go, you can find free character counters online. But you want to use at least 700, if not as close to 750 as possible. You can also do something, you can link your social profiles on Google Business. And so you definitely want to do that. You can also add updates there the same way that you might post something, like post about events on Instagram or Facebook. You can just reuse that content and post them on your Google Business profile, because Google wants to know that you are a business that is like active in the community, that you are refreshing your information, that you are sharing up-to-date things. And I'm pretty sure that those like updates or posts, they disappear after 2 weeks. So they're not there forever, but it's just like another way to be sharing what's going on. So if you're hosting an event, if you're hosting a wedding show, or a pop-up event or whatever, like that's a great place to share that. One of the other strategies for specific to local SEO is having backlinks, which are links that exist on somebody else's website that then go to yours, and having local backlinks. And so having, this is especially, I think, of how wedding pros do professional, what do you guys call them? Like stage shoots. What are they?
Oh, styled shoots. Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you, stage. A styled shoot, right? And you collaborate with all these other incredible vendors. Well, when you're sharing that on your website, like, making sure that you are giving credit to all those vendors and that they're doing the same for you, So like if you see your work, your photography or your makeup work that you did on a client or whatever on somebody else's blog and they forgot to mention you can say like, hey, can you give me credit there? And then have them link it to your website, because that local SEO, because you want backlinks anyway, and having them from local companies or local businesses is going to further boost that local SEO rankings.
Yeah. Okay. I'm so glad you brought that up. I actually had backlinks on my bigger list of questions for you. And then that was one I like cut out because I was like, I don't know if we'll have time for it. But yes, that's so important too. And I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I don't know if people realize just the benefit that backlinks provides. So,
and it's, so on your website, you want to have internal links, which are links from one page of your website to another page. And then you want external links. So you want links from your website to other credible websites. And so that's where like linking other vendors that you did collaborations with at a wedding or at a styled shoot. And then you want those backlinks. So external links from somebody else's website to yours. And the internal links where you're like linking from one page on your website to another, the more links you have to a page tells Google that that page is important. So for example, if you do a ton of blogs, and blogs generally are going to like want you to have some links, linking a bunch of them to your about page if you really want people to see it, or linking a bunch of those to your services page so that it's telling Google like this is a really important page to go to. So that's another little tip.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if I realized that. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, gosh, you've given us so much great insight already. And I'm just wondering, like, let's say somebody, goes, I was going to say goes home. They might be home right now. Who knows? Wherever they are, if they're
wherever
like,
they are.
Gosh, yeah. If they want to just get at it and start implementing these strategies, like how can they know if it's working?
Okay. So that's where having different tools set up. So Google Search Console, of course, the free one that you can set up is really important. It's going to give you valuable information about how your website is working, what keywords you're starting to rank for, or, where they're falling in the ranking. It also gives you information like if you have links that aren't working. The other one is Google Analytics, which is another free tool that you should set up after you launch your website or, whenever, because it gives you really valuable information in terms of like how people are interacting with your website. So like what pages are they on for the longest? Where are they coming from? Like what backlinks are they, bringing them to you? What's your best blog post? Like you can really dive in. You can also get information. Are they using a mobile device versus a desktop? And so tracking in terms of, are you getting more organic traffic? Organic meaning like they found you from a Google search query. They didn't directly just type in your name or come from like a link from somebody's website. Looking at, okay, are you getting more traffic? Are you getting more keywords? Another one is your domain authority, which we haven't talked about yet. But this essentially is a number that's kind of like Google's trust and popularity scoring for your website. Every website has one. It is a very slow growing number, from 0 to 100. And like even very well established websites, like Target doesn't even have a 100. And so like that should never be your end goal. But is your domain authority going up? And you can look at Moz, MOZ domain checker. It's free to use. You can type in your domain and it'll tell you like what you're at and seeing, okay, 3 to 4 months from now, has that gone up or not? And honestly, that one you can, check every 6 to 12 months because it can be really slow growing. But if it goes up a number or two in a year, okay, then you're making progress. So those are kind of the key things, is like really getting familiar with starting to use Google Search Console, Google Analytics. Uber Suggest is going to give you some information too for your website. Like you can type in your URL and see what keywords it pulls for you. And then that domain authority. Those are the main ones.
Okay, amazing. So quickly, I want to see if because I may have jumped over one question. Is there anything else that you wanted to add or just share today about SEO? And then I want to ask you just a bit more about your services that you offer for wedding pros and anyone needing, website copywriting, SEO services. And then also, we very well may be able to time the release of this episode with your guide coming out. So I was wondering if you would also share a bit about that too.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to like make sure we covered. So yeah, in terms of working with me, I do offer, so web design, I only design on Showit. I am a Showit devotee through and through. I love it. I literally would not have become a web designer if I had not discovered Showit. So I am like, I don't make any exceptions there. But I do provide SEO services and copywriting for any other platform. So those are, I do that, obviously. I often provide all sorts of different collaborative packages to work with clients in terms of, I know like this is off season, but like busy season for wedding pros is rapidly approaching. And so like timing things around that, or doing a little bit of DIY, if you want me to help you get started on Showit and teach you it and like do a brand refresh, but you take it from there or whatever. So I do so many different packages for my clients. And then, yes, so my guide is going to be coming out in March. I was like in February, but that's, 3 days away. So definitely not in February. But it's literally called the No Nonsense Guide to SEO Essentials because I just like to break things down, keep it easy. I've had to go through a beta round of testers to just like give me feedback on it. It walks you through things like Uber Suggest, Google Search Console, Google Analytics, how to do keyword research, how do you know if it's a good keyword, where to put it on your website. So it gives you really practical step-by-step information on what you can do. And by no means are you supposed to be like an expert after using my guide, but you should feel really confident and comfortable in knowing that you are doing things to establish a really strong foundation. And it's, it's something that I'm really excited about that I never thought I would be like so stoked to create for people, but it's so needed. And I feel like so many people think of, wedding pros, creatives, they just think like, oh, that's not how my brain works. I can't do SEO. And I'm like, no, literally my brain works like your brain and you can't do SEO. Like if I can figure this out and teach people it, I promise that you can figure it out. And like, that's the entire approach to the guide that I made.
Everyone needs that. It sounds
right?
so amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely like time the release of this episode with that guide so that I can link it and everyone can go and buy it because it just sounds incredible. So,
oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your fantastic knowledge with us. And where can everybody find you online? Where can they find you and learn more about what you have to offer?
Yeah. So Bloem Creations, but I'm tricky. So it's spelled BLOEM creations.com. It's Dutch for flower, for bloom. So that's where it comes from. My mom is Dutch and it comes from like freelance floral design. People are like, what is this word? So bloomcreations.com is my website. I'm also on Instagram at bloom.creations. Those are really kind of the best ways to find me, unless you're local here in Eugene. And then like, I love meeting up with people, of course, or I'm occasionally at the Engage in Eugene event.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the best ways to connect.
Okay, amazing. I have wondered about the name, so I'm glad that you shared that little backstory on that. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, well, thank you, Carrie. I really appreciate you, and I can't wait for everybody to hear all this goodness.
Yeah, awesome. I had a blast. Thanks, Becky.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I hope you found value in this episode, and if you did, please consider sharing it with a wedding industry friend. We also hope you'll consider leaving a rating or review for the show to help other listeners find it. This podcast is edited and produced by Ace Sound Design. If you're looking to elevate your audio experience, their info can be found in the show description. As always, thank you for listening, and please connect with us on Instagram if you haven't already. Now, get out there and crush it.